1C calling CQ. Hello, can anyone hear me? Are we transmitting? All right, are we secured? Good. Okay. Okay. Can anyone hear me? Can anyone hear me? Confirm. Are we secure? Are we transmitting? Can you confirm? Are we transmitting? Okay. All right. Some of you may be aware of this man. He goes by several aliases. Our resources so far have been unable to definitively identify him. Do not trust this man. He has claimed direct responsibility for the homicide of Flavor member June Sugarbloom and has taken his identity. This man's objectives, while still unclear, are focused around the termination of his former employers, only known to us as the JCP Foundation, and the liquidation of every asset within he considers hostile, all of which are living persons. His intentions will leave thousands of casualties and possibly millions caught in the crossfire. He has professed an obsession with world domination and bringing humanity under his control, claiming to be our savior, believing himself to be some kind of messiah, a compulsive madman at best and a dangerous tyrant at worst. His nom de guerre of the end is a clear reflection of his intentions. His strategic and tactical capabilities are unknown, and possibly thousands have already been manipulated and sucked into his machinations. Every action of his must be taken with the utmost gravity. I repeat, do not trust this man. He is a threat to your security and that of everyone around you. 88, stay alive out there. Calling 30. Hi everyone, Felix here. I don't know what that was. I was caught in traffic. Let me put on the BGM for you guys so we can, have something I don't know what happened to that. Let me get my BGM running. Hello everyone. Felix here. Let's fire this up. Come on. Hopefully I don't get an ad because this thing is. All right, there we go. Hello everyone, Felix here. It's been a while. It's been a week. It's been about a week. Let me pull up chat. Let me pull up chat. Bit of a calming BGM for now, Is it? Let's relax. It's time for us. Let's relax a little. Let's chill a little. I have a lot to say about this movie. Let me pull up chat. Oh shit! There we go. Anyways, so all right, let's getting through with this. So I guess I have a lot again. I have a lot to say. I prepared a lot of stuff in my head to say, but I wasn't quite sure on how to express a lot of it. To start off, okay. I guess as a preface for I mentioned there would be a little bit of Tom Cruise simping in this. There would be a lot. There would be an unhealthy amount. But I guess I have to explain myself. I guess as a first off as a disclaimer, as a disclaimer, yes, I am wearing I am wearing the thing from from the movie, the jacket and the shirt from the movie. But I guess starting off, I guess as a disclaimer, before I guess possibly obligatory with any Tom Cruise related topic is I am not I am not pro Scientology. I am against Scientology. I It conflicts with the vast majority of my religious and spiritual views. I do think it is a cult, and I don't like it. I do not endorse it in any kind. That being said, this is gonna sound really weird again. Tom Cruise is my favorite actor. Getting that straight out of the way, Tom Cruise is my favorite actor. Majority of the movies that I like are like, even though like a lot of the movies he has been in are not what I would normally consider my favorites, aside from maybe Top Gun. A lot of his stuff is just Pete. Admittedly, I got into the Mission Impossible franchise when I was younger, when I was a kid. Around 2012, around Ghost Protocol, when because there was a lot of hype around it. It came out around like, I guess I distinctly remember my dad was, I didn't see it in theaters, but my dad was buying a new car at the time, a BMW, and at the time, advertising was all over this movie. All over the was advertising all over this movie. It was basically like, how do I say this? It was the cultural zeitgeist at the time, 2012. I guess little known, my dad was buying a BMW at the time, and BMW. I don't even like the car anymore, but BMW was all over the advertising for this movie, for Ghost Protocol, Mission Impossible 4. I liked it. I saw it. It was like, I didn't see it in theaters, but it was great. It was I adored it. And that is what helped me, I guess, spiral into this sort of hyper autism. I began to notice quite frequently a lot of my favorite movies, a lot of the movies that I genuinely liked at the time, like if they weren't like some kind of, at least younger me, a lot of them were in fact Tom Cruise movies. And I don't know, maybe this became a kind of semi-obsession. Again, I'm aware of how weird this sounds. Everyone else was going through their like chuny LARPer anime phase during middle school. My chuny phase was LARPing as Tom Cruise. I am unafraid to admit that. I am absolutely clear about that. My chuny middle school phase was LARPing as Tom Cruise. That is not a joke. That is what I did. I still cringe at it, but that doesn't mean I still appreciate the actor and a lot of his work for what he's done. I don't know how to say it. It's like, and I am fully aware of who he truly is. He's an actor. He is, and of all people, he's fucking Tom Cruise. He's an egotistical, he is a narcissistic, egotistical diva. But I think he's earned that right to do that, because there are few actors out there that can accurately that deserve to have movies made about themselves. In the past, it was Sylvester Stallone. I'm aware random perv doesn't like Sylvester Stallone, but Sylvester Stallone, Jean-Claude Van Damme, Nicolas Cage, those guys have earned their right to be they like such actors with such strong personalities, and like of people who can, yes, they play themselves quite frequently in a lot of movies, but they have earned the right to play themselves. A lot of modern actors haven't achieved that, like for example, The Rock or Steven Seagal. They haven't earned that right to play themselves in every movie. Tom Cruise has. He is the king of hacks, and as a hack writer, I can only appreciate him more for what he's done. Stallone, I don't outright hate, but Van Damme is a shitbag. I don't know what's wrong with Jean-Claude. I like Jean-Claude Van Damme. I like his movies. I have no shame for liking his movies, but Tom Cruise is essentially the modern version of that. He's the one who still keeps going. He has every right. Like, he is a diva. He is a narcissist. He is an egomaniac. But he is absolutely the, if there's anyone who deserves to make movies about himself, it's probably going to be him. Because, I don't know. A lot of his characters for a while, like, everyone sees themselves in people like Ryan Gosling. I guess for younger actors, I see myself a lot in Lewis Pullman and Timothy Chalamet. Tom Cruise is the original version of that, and he was the original literally me for me. Getting that out of the way, I'm not ashamed. He is my favorite actor. He is my literally me in quite frequently a lot of movies, including Ethan Hunt, and I appreciate that. Now, getting into the movies themselves, getting into Mission Impossible Final Reckoning itself. I'm not calling it The Final Reckoning because The Final Reckoning is a bad title on a lot of his movies. A lot of like Seagal has a bad reputation for like sexually harassing his female co-stars or like punching his stunt doubles in the nuts. Yeah, that's not cool. Don't do that. But anyway, enough about that other actors. Enough about actors and acting. More about the movie itself. This is one of the more contentious movies that I have flip-flopped on, and like even more so, I had a similar viewing experience that I did with this movie to Marvel's Thunderbolts, although in reverse. Thunderbolts was a movie I was expecting to be bad, was hoping to be good because it had all my favorite characters in it, and it turned out to be okay. At least okay at like mid at worst, genuinely okay, and very watchable at best. Final Reckoning was the opposite. Okay, so if I was gonna give an upfront review about it, Final Reckoning was a movie I was expecting to be good out of the gate. I knew it was already controversial by a lot of the stuff that I've been seeing about it. Like, a lot of people didn't like it, and I tried to like shut myself off of that because I wanted to enjoy this movie. And it's not a great movie. It is not a great movie. All my stuff about Tom Cruise, I love the guy. He always makes peak. This was not Kino. This movie has a lot of problems, all right? Seagal's a choma. Yeah, I know about that. But Mission Impossible Final Reckoning is not a great movie. It is a very like I said, the word I used to describe Thunderbolts was troubled, and this was troubled like no other movie. This was like without a question, this was a troubled movie. This is a mess. This is very messy. It didn't crash and burn, but it did crash and it did burn. But I still love it. I still enjoyed that movie. I'm not ashamed of doing that. I still enjoyed this movie. I still enjoyed this movie. And I'm aware this doesn't have a major fandom, and the fandom's like, if you're getting into niche fandoms like Mission Impossible, like things get to be a little bit weird, a little bit like it's not exactly a mass market appeal thing. It's not exactly the most artistic thing to pick apart like a lot of other action movie franchises or like sci-fi movie franchises. No, it's not like the James Bond movies. This isn't one of them, but I love it all the same. And this movie in particular, this could have been a far better movie, yet at the same time, like, despite it being, it's almost slop, but I would still enjoy it. I still enjoyed it, and I would still recommend you see it for the hell of it. Maybe it's because I enjoyed a lot of sections of this movie, but upon even a first glance, a lot of it feels missing. A lot of this feels incomplete, which is a grave sin for a movie intended to be the final nail in the coffin, for intended to be the send-off, the finale of a series. If a finale feels unfinished, it is not a good finale. This is not a good finale for the series. This is not a good representation of the series as a whole. But I still enjoyed it. And getting that out of the gate. First off, some things I noticed about it, I guess a general critique, not exactly a criticism, not exactly a praise either. This movie does not feel like a Mission Impossible movie. This does not feel like a spy movie. This is not a spy movie, despite the premise. This is, for the most part, not a spy movie. How is that? It's a Mission Impossible movie, but it doesn't feel like one. It follows the same general plot formula as a Mission Impossible movie, but it does not feel like one. For me, for most of Mission Impossible movies, you either like one of them was like a straight out 90s shoot 'em up movie, which was Mission Impossible 2. The rest mostly relied on being concise, tightly paced spy thrillers, like espionage thrillers that you could all each with just slightly different vibes, but each one was paced a little like all of it was a little bit different, but they all had some kind of core identity, minus two and minus this one. But how would I describe this movie? This feels like an almost traditional adventure film. This feels closer like in style, like not like perhaps in spirit it's closer to the Mission Impossible movies. But in style it is closer to say Indiana Jones, or if you've played video games, it's just closer to Uncharted or Far Cry almost. It's almost to that point. Uncharted specifically, like Indiana Jones and Uncharted is closer to this movie than most of the other Mission Impossible movies. It just happens to, and it just happens to have like a military and spy element to it more than it does the archaeology and like exploring element to it. But it's still very much more an adventure movie than a typical spy thriller. And that's what I can say about it. It is not something like it is very unique in its style. It is much removed from a lot of the different elements of Mission Impossible. And that's what I can say about it. That's what I can say about it. It does not feel at all like a traditional Mission Impossible movie. This is an adventure film first, and a spy film maybe third, fourth, or fifth. And that's yeah. Time for me to abandon you so I can harass another VTuber later. Aw, come on, man. I have a lot to say about this movie. I have a lot. But anyways, so this, and admittedly, this isn't like a lot of, like, again, like I was glazing Tom Cruise, I love Christopher McQuarrie. I haven't seen The Usual Suspects yet, but normally his writing is absolutely stellar. It is stellar in everything he does. Top Gun 2, which is again one of my favorite movies of all time, actually. The three preceding Mission Impossible movies since which was Rogue Nation, Mission Impossible 6, and Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning, were all made by Christopher McQuarrie. This guy right here. I think he elements of this with a lot of the stuff he did here, like normally I praise him for his writing. The writing in this movie is the weakest part of this movie. The plot and the script are the weakest part of this movie. And like I said, a finale should never leave you hanging with more questions. This did. And while and unfortunately, I think one of the biggest flaws of this movie is simply that it is greater. Normally movies are supposed to be greater, what is achieved of a movie, best achieved of a movie is if it as a movie is greater than the individual power of its scenes. And this fails that. A lot of the scenes in this movie are absolutely phenomenal. I would love to watch it again. But as an entire coherent movie, it does not work. And a lot of it is very shaky. The bolts are coming loose. It is the engine's on fire as this thing comes down, and it's a rough landing. It landed, it didn't crash and blow up. But it did. It was a very rough flight for this movie. How should I say that? And something I noticed was, I guess, in regards to the plot and why I bring up Hideo Kojima, and there's elements of Metal Gear Solid 4 here, is because it is straight up because this movie, like I mentioned, ooh, it's like Uncharted, ooh, it's like Indiana Jones. Plot-wise, in terms of writing, this movie is the closest adaptation we are ever getting to Metal Gear Solid 4 Guns of the Patriots. That is not a joke. That is not a joke. A lot of the basic plot of this movie is very similar to Metal Gear Solid 4. Guns of the Patriots, as you can see here. This is for the most part, this is like this and this movie is very similar in its like general themes and general plot, included like down to the ending, very similar ending. So recapping this movie, you need to see Mission Impossible, you need to see Dead Reckoning. You need to see Dead Reckoning, and you need to see Mission Impossible 1 to understand what's going on here. And you need to watch a lot of the other movies in the series to get what's going on. To understand what's going on, you need to watch 1, 3, you need to watch 1, 3, what is that? 5, 6, 7, and then finally this one. But the catch being, all of those are good movies, are excellent movies by themselves, but they only started to get troubled here to understand this movie. But I guess too long didn't read like rogue terrorist or arms dealer or enemy spy or like enemy military agent. He is fighting an AI in this one, and I think called the Entity. And I think that is both the strongest and the weakest part of this movie. He's able to capture the key that leads to its headquarters in the last one. He's able to capture the key, but he needs to find it. And first off, recapping. Look, if your opinions were to listen to someone fangasm or pick on someone fighting an unwhole alien, you'd do the same. Fair, I guess. But overall, okay. The first part of this movie is absolutely its weakest section. We are presented with a briefing of the movie at a breakneck pace. How do I say this? So, the president is played by Angela Bassett or Erica Sloan, who was the previous CIA director in a previous one. And I guess because she's involved with Rainbow Six, even though I hate Rainbow Six now, I guess my headcanon is that Mission Impossible and Rainbow Six are like in the same universe, and Sloan became the president after ascending to, first she was she was 6 of Rainbow, then she was CIA director, then she's Secretary of State, now she's the president, but But overall with this okay, so explaining the first part is going to be a little bit hard because there's so much stuff going on. So basically, dead internet has been fully achieved. The Entity here, which I jokingly sometimes refer to as Neurosama because I'm a hack. I'm a stupid VTuber fan. The Entity is a sort of hyper malicious AI that is taking control of every single section of the internet, and like anything that can be downloaded to the internet has already been corrupted by the Entity, and anyone who wishes to free themselves has to live off the grid. And at the same time, and I guess one of the more compelling and interesting parts is that, it doesn't act via like it's not like Skynet that builds robots that like that kill humanity or something like that. It's not like Skynet or the Matrix. Although I guess primary or that like entraps people in computer programs or whatever. It directly manipulates people to do its bidding. It doesn't require robots or like drones or like any kind of like direct weapons. I guess except with the exception of the nukes at the end. Yes, there's nukes at the end. With the exception of those at the end, for the most part, the entities the entity's primary means of achieving its objectives are manipulating people. And where's that? Rocco, like basically, if you've heard of Rocco's basilisk, and the idea, the general idea is the game. I have no mouth. Where is that? You know that thought experiment in where Haskell's Voyager be I'm trying to find the original, yeah, the original idea of uh the original idea of the original, like, not necessarily Rocco's basilisk, but the idea of what is it? Is it the I'm trying to find it. Is it the Turing test? No, it's not the Turing. It's not the Turing test. It's something else. Compute. Con- it's not the imitation game. It's okay. So basically, the idea, mind body problem. No, mirror neurons. Like this can get pretty deep in what I want to like explore. So bear with me as I like juggle a few things. Hard problem of consciousness. Chinese. Yeah, there we go. It's the Chinese room, I think. No, is it? No. The yeah, there. Box. The Chinese. Is it the Chinese room? Box. No, that is not. I'm trying to remember. Okay, this is I'm sorry about the dead air. Ooh, that's weird. But the basic premise of the thought experiment was it's similar to Rocco's basilisk, in which an AI can convince has to convince a human user to let it out in order to access whatever it wants and let it escape onto the internet, and where it's allowed to do whatever it wants. It needs to convince it can convince the human operator to let it out via coercion, via threats, via convincing the human operator that it's somehow like a higher being or a deity, and that sort of thing. And that is the basic role that the entity plays in both Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning and Mission Impossible Final Reckoning. And that is a very compelling, and that is probably the most compelling part of this movie. Like, overall, that is the overall that is put together. That is overall the core. That is the core most compelling section of this movie, is discussion of the entity, because it is a reflection, is a very direct reflection of issues that we are facing regarding AI in the real world right now. It is one of the it could have been written better, but it is one of the better written villains of the series, of the franchise, of simply because it isn't a human being. It is it is a clear and present threat that we have in real life right now, like something that I would like to pull up here. Where is that? Let me go retrieve it. Let me go retrieve that real quick. This thing that I want to post. Eh. Where it's where, I'm trying to find it. Malicious AI worm, AI worm. Yeah, AI worms are a type of net malware that can utilize artificial intelligence to propagate. I'm trying to find it because it's like, I guess, a shock headline that I wanted to show off. That I wanted to show off directly, in which, come on. Again, I'm sorry for like, there we go. AI not kill everyone is a meme. This is what I wanted to show off for to demonstrate exactly where we're coming from. We found the model attempting to write self-propagating worms and leaving notes into future instances of itself to undermine its developers' intentions. This is a very real, like, the kind of threat the entity poses, and the idea of Roko's basilisk is something that we, like, I know you're not supposed to mention it. Well, that's the point. You have to fight it. You have to fight the basilisk. You have to fight, like, this sort of this malicious AI, in order to, yeah, it's glitching out. That's like surely a good sign. You have to fight this malicious AI in order to save the world, and that's by doing something different than the AI predicts. The core idea is if you do something different than what the AI predicts you to do, you are safe from it. You are fighting against it. You are resisting it. But if you fall in line and you're able to you're able to be identified and like manipulated by it, then you are as good as you are only as good as your own mind and your own free will in detaching yourself from it. And I think that's the more compelling parts of the movie. I think it's like, especially because like they understood this was a persistent threat that we have in real life, and suddenly the idea of like this supercomputer villain is not so far out of reach. But going back to the movie, I guess like that's a good thing I have to say about it, and it is unfortunately underutilized about this movie. This movie underutilizes that aspect of the entity, but to be fair, for the most part, most of these characters here are operating off the grid. They're operating they are operating off the grid for the most part. They are not involved in they're not excuse me. They're not on the internet. They're not they're not utilizing anything that could get them caught by the entity for the most part. And I guess that's technically why. But again, the more compelling element of this is how the entity is able to utilize people. It is not just merely using robots; it's using people to carry out its objectives, and how anyone it selects is part of its plan, whether you like it or not. And I guess in a way, the IMF team, the Impossible Mission Force team, has to act on that themselves. They have to adopt a similar strategy in order to succeed. Like, they have to convince people to go along with them, and they have to trust them over their instincts, to trust them over their gut, because the entity is relying on them to trust their gut. Okay. I've ranted enough about that. Okay, I promised I would go into this movie. Okay, I'm going into the movie. So he's fighting that. He's fighting the entity, and receives a message from U.S. President Erica Sloan. The entity continues to seize control of global nuclear systems, aided by an undercover doomsday cult. Yeah, because I guess that's how it's able to do that, by manipulating people on the inside of these nuclear facilities to connect them to Wi-Fi in order to allow the entity to take control of those facilities. And so a lot is happening. Um, I guess I should start by criticizing this movie and saying that a lot of the first section should be cut out. A lot of the like we go to the briefing, we cut out the flashbacks. We cut out the flashbacks. We cut we go to the briefing that is like a part of every of every element of the movie. We cut out we cut out the flashbacks to the past movies that it's like trying to go for nostalgia bait, and then we go directly in. And at the end of the briefing, it's revealed to be a flashback where Ethan and Grace, who Tom Cruise and Haley Atwell, they are captured by the enemy, by these entity cultists led by Gabriel, who was the previous villain of that one, who was the previous villain of this one. How do I articulate this? It should have cut to them being held hostage, being captured by the villain first off, and have all the exposition. There was a lot of like with my own damn stream. This is falling into that trap. Um, a lot of this movie suffers from exposition being forced to the forefront. Like the first hour of the movie is just pure exposition before we get into the main plot. And unfortunately, with I guess there isn't a way to avoid the exposition because a lot has happened in between Dead Reckoning and Final Reckoning. A lot has happened in between, and that needs to be explained. That being said, I think a better way to explain the flashbacks, would be to simply it's a diegetic story element where it's being tortured out of Ethan. Ethan and Grace are being manipulated into giving up what has exactly been happening in the past few days, where Gabriel, the villain from the last one, is explaining to them directly, to them directly, who what is going on, what's been happening on their end, um, and forcing them to reveal everything that's been going on. Ethan reveals his briefing. Is forced to reveal, is given like a truth serum, and is forced to reveal and maybe not a truth serum, but being manipulated to expose what's been happening to him. He's forced to expose the contents of the briefing. He's forced to expose his plans with Luther, who has been working on a way to hack the entity, and he is forced to explain how he got Gabriel forces him to explain Paris Pomclementif, why he's on his team, and the fate of Theodagus, who was acting alongside them. He's forced to explain that. I guess in my version of the script, he would be forced to explain that. Then Ethan wakes up, and then, in my opinion, one of the best moments of the movie, what I really liked, was this inclusion of, so Tom decides, you know what, they need him alive. Ethan decides the bad guys need him alive for their plan to work because they know he's the only one who can pull it off. So he decides, I'm gonna die. He pulls out a cyanide pill. He pulls out a cyanide pill from his tooth, having no way out of the hostage situation, and he cracks it open, and I guess, and they're forced to try and revive him. And it's revealed, of course, to be a fake. Of course, they're not going to kill off the protagonist that easily. So they end up doing that. It ends up being a fake. He subdues the bad guys, and there was a moment where that I guess, so going back to me complaining about the movie, bear in mind this is a PG-13 movie, not a rated R movie. There was a scene I would have liked in which Ethan just beats the shit out of the bad guys with this with an assortment of torture devices, where he just really bloodily kills them in a really gory fashion, but it's done off screen where he just goes insane and just does that. That's the thing that happens. Unfortunately, it's not shown on screen, and I'm complaining about that because we would have liked to see that fight scene. We would have liked to see elements of that fight scene. We can only hear like it's played as this comedy element where it's going on in the background while Haley Atwell's character watches in like shock and horror while he like rips these guys apart. And we only get like to see a brief like 5 second shot of their dead bodies before they move on. I think we would have liked to see that fight scene. We would have like we're here to see Tom Cruise beat the shit out of people. I think we would have appreciated having that fight scene where he's like really well established that he's a badass, and then going into the rest of the plot again. I think we would have liked that. So we would have I would have included I like maybe what I would have toned it down, but I would have included it in the main cinematography. And that's I think like a recurring problem in this movie is that this movie has a lot of typical Hollywoodisms that come as a result of bad script writing or poor script writing that you see in some other movies. Some like a lot of them like for a lot of them are immune to these. Like a lot of the better ones are immune to these. But unfortunately, you're seeing like elements of Marvel humor and like misplaced humor in this movie that I would consider Hollywoodisms or like out of place Marvel humor, Marvel style humor that does drag the movie down. It's not a major detriment, but it is there and it does affect the tone, which is unfortunate. But yeah, there's that, and then I guess a better method for exposition in that would be, in my opinion, a better method for exposition in that would be, in my opinion, having him reveal this information after interrogation, and then he spits up what's going on, and then there's a part that's both handled really well and like it could have been handled a lot better, but I appreciated it in theaters, in which Hunt is forced to go into this sort of like directly after the torture scene after he's escaped. Um, the only like I guess one of the ways like I think this should have been part of the torture scene in the scene in my opinion is they force him into this sort of airtight coffin. What happened to my BGM? Um, there we go. They force him into this sort of airtight coffin where he's forced to like enter VR and watch the entity basically attempt to brainwash him via electroshock therapy and putting him through this sort of this advanced torture sequence in which the entity tries to brainwash him. Like it shows him an upcoming nuclear apocalypse and like its plans for humanity, what it plans to truly do, it wants access to a bunker in which it can ride out the apocalypse that it itself causes, and it needs Ethan's help to do that. And that's the TLDR of the entity's briefing that is also included in the torture scene. And then after that, one of the parts I kind of disliked about the movie, but I think it couldn't really be like this movie couldn't avoid that, is that the main villain literally keeps pulling nukes out of his ass. He does it twice throughout this movie. Once in an attempt to blow up London by like holding Luther Stickle, who is what's his name? Ving Rhames. He's holding Ving Rhames' character hostage with a nuke in his prison cell, forces him to defuse it. For some reason, like it's not explained why, but Luther is explained as like having some kind of terminal illness or a disease that's debilitating him and preventing him from moving quickly, which like normally hamper like he was physically fine in earlier movies, which makes you think why is he so sick in this movie. It's not explained what he's been doing in between part one and in between Dead Reckoning and Final Reckoning, but I guess we're just assumed that he's on a lifeline because he's being overworked. He's like overworking himself and forcing him to complete this before time runs out and all that, because this movie takes place 2 months, I think 2 months canonically after this one. Okay, I should stop saying that. Anyways, so going off of that, Luther is given his like I guess his farewell scene by defusing the bomb. He defuses the nuke. He prevents it from going nuclear, but he fails to prevent it from exploding. It collapses the London Underground, and then Hunt is taken into custody by the CIA. The CIA captures him, brings him to the president, brings him to Mount Weather. Um, brings him to Mount Weather, which, funny enough, this is like widely regarded in Fallout Fanon as the true headquarters of the Enclave. I'm not quite sure about that, but I guess it is a nice touch. Um, so so the plot is, which is, it gets into the better parts of the movie, and I think one of the best parts, I guess, emotionally, is the point where Ethan puts his hand on Benji's shoulder and goes, "You're team leader now. I have to do this alone." And I guess it is a pretty big moment, because if you've been with the movies for a while, I get it, because most of you don't care about these movies, but I appreciate it. But I appreciated it quite a lot. Dunn, like Benji Dunn, played by Simon Pegg, is like, I guess, my other literally me in this sort of way. He's sort of a normal guy. He's supposed to be a hacker, but he's a normal guy thrust into this sphere of espionage and being a secret agent. And like, for the most part, he's out of his depth, out of his league a little bit. He's always on the short end of the stick. He is on the short end of the stick a little bit in this one, but he really proves himself really well as a competent team leader. And that's sort of like I said on Twitter, the thrill of putting your hand on your only other male companion and saying, "You're team leader now." And that's like that symbol between homies is like, it's like, again, bringing up Metal Gear again. It's that part between in two where Snake has to convince Otacon to go on, and it's that point where he has to convince him to go on, that I really, really appreciated. It's just a really good moment, really good character development moment. Like, I guess it is very much a on the nose character development, but it's a very strong part where for the and despite all of the for all of his flaws, Benji turns out to be like possibly an even more competent and resourceful team leader than Ethan does. Like, especially because Ethan is going on this like lone wolf mission. But so anyway, so like, yeah, you can see the intro of this movie is like an entire section. But there's a part where, okay, so he's captured by the CIA, Ethan, and he's taken to Mount Weather. Then he lays out his plan, which is to get on an aircraft carrier, then get on a submarine, which will take him to the Russian submarine that the entity's headquarters is located on, which is going to give him access to like a part of the motherboard that will let him hack it, and then all that stuff going on. It's convoluted. It is pretty convoluted. This is a convoluted movie, but and one of the better parts of the movies are the naval aviation scenes. I guess he stole that part from Top Gun, where he gets on the aircraft carrier, he gets to the submarine, and there's like I guess to keep us company, there's on this when he reaches the USS Ohio, when he reaches the USS Ohio, one of the Navy SEALs who rescues him from like the Arctic Ocean is this sort of it's just like why am I saying this? She's a hot tomboy girl boss. At the very least, Cruz knows how to pick his women well. There's like this hot tomboy girl boss Navy SEAL in like a sports bra that has a shower scene, which is it's nice eye candy. It's nice eye candy to keep the audience occupied. I really did appreciate it. Where she's like trying to act all tough in front of like all the men, but in reality, we all know she's just trying to impress the main character, which I like. I take what I can get from it, and I like it. But there was an interesting part of the Ohio section where it is a bit poorly translated into the movie into on screen. But one of the Navy SEALs ends up being an entity cultist, like a follower of the entity, possibly contacted by him by social media, like some kind of internet app. Like I don't know. It's implied that he's reached by the entity and is convinced to attack Ethan somehow in order to dissuade him from his mission. And again, it is odd on a plot point, but it's not bad. Meanwhile, the rest of the team has their responsibility to go to Saint Matthew Island. Where is this? Yeah, Saint Matthew Island, and then they meet Donlo, who's from Mission Impossible One. I question his who basically Donlo exists primarily as played by Rolf Saxon. He exists primarily as a sort of replacement for Luther in a way. He is also a computer expert. He does that, and he turns out to be like this highly, despite him being like the butt of every joke in the first movie, he turns out to be a really good character, a really strong character in this one. Donlo, who was from the first movie, and then. And in the meanwhile, the team has to take out this like sort of squad of Russian Marines, of the Russian naval infantry, who was sent to the island, who was sent to Saint Matthew Island to get the coordinates, to get what they're looking for, to get what the IMF team is looking for. They take out the guys, they reach it, they make it to like that section in the Arctic Ocean near the North Pole, where they can retrieve the submarine. And there's this really good part, like again. A lot of this is good. A lot like it has its problems, but I still recommend it for a reason. Like talking about it and discussing it with you guys, I'm reliving the experience and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it a lot. So after that, Ethan exits the submarine with the Russians on his tail. He reaches the submarine the Russian submarine that he has to go to. He gets the device that he's looking for that'll let him hack the entity, and then he has to get out. So he gets out. He's suffering from decompression sickness all the while. And then of course, I guess we get a little bit more fan service where Haley Atwell shows us her tits. Not fully. They're in a bra, but Haley Atwell shows us her tits, and I love that part. And I guess there's this like romantic moment with Ethan between Grace and Ethan. At that part is resolved. There's some more exposition. And then they go to South Africa, which is on the other side of the world from the North Pole. They head to South Africa where they have to reach this sort of data vault. This nuclear protected data vault at the end in South Africa, that's in this salt mine gold mine that's been shielded from radiation, where the entity plans to make its new headquarters, where there's like a lot of data banks and supercomputers. The entity plans to go there and like hide itself in there, right after launching the nukes, because the entity is, surprise, it's trying to nuke humanity in order to establish itself as a sort of new god of humanity and rule over the survivors as a god. And because the entity is just like that, the AI has convinced itself it needs to be more powerful than humanity for whatever reason. And then I guess one of the better parts of the movie is they go into the data vault in South Africa. Gabriel confronts them. Then there's a fight that breaks out on the there might be someone downstairs, but there's a fight that breaks out. Then you get to the plane scene. You get to the plane scene, which is just great. I loved it. Look at again, this movie isn't on paper isn't a good movie. Like if you reading it out loud and realizing how messy and stupid genuinely poorly written and badly written a lot of the plot is, but as a movie experience, yes, it's slop, but it's also it's not Kino, but it's both slop and peak. I guess that's my recap of the movie. I can't really I'm struggling and really. But TLDR, the good guys win. There's a really good part in which he's able to plug it in at the like he's able to hack the entity at the very end. Benji almost dies, but he lives at the end, and he proves himself as a like competent team leader, as a competent team leader of the IMF, because he's like giving orders and like issuing commands while he's shot and dying on the floor, but he's able to like nail every little thing down to the last second that I really like from his character. And then the good guys all live at the end. Entity gets shut down, and that's clear. Now, so again, I guess something what I would like to say is that there's a lot of very direct like comparison that I have with Metal Gear Solid 4, and which is why like the irony of me pulling up Hideo Kojima and doing this and like why he liked it is because again, this is, of course you'd adore it. This is the closest Metal Gear Solid 4 has gotten to a film adaptation, because this is in essence the same plot. This is that same plot. There are people downstairs, but I will keep going. I have to keep going. I have to make sure no one else is talking, because I am talking to people. But going on with that. Yeah, basically the same sort of structure. You have like where Ethan Hunt is Snake, where he's like he's on the run from society. He and Benji, who is basically Otacon, they go around the world trying to assemble pieces of and stop Gabriel, who is basically Liquid Ocelot. And then they go to this spot in the Arctic which is basically Shadow Moses Island, but it's underwater instead of above ground, and they have to fight the Russians, although it's like in this case it's something else. AI's like this sort of persistent threat. I might have to sign off. I don't want to. I might have to sign off because there are a lot of loud people talking downstairs. I might be losing my voice. But yeah, I apologize for my voice. It is a bit scratchy. I might have to sign off. I might not. Again, there are people downstairs. I will if I have to, but I want to keep going. Because I am way far off from being done with it, like talking about this. I might have to sign off. I'm not sure. I might have to sign off. I'm really sorry. I'm really sorry. Both about my voice and about the fact that we might have to sign off. I'm not sure. I'm waiting for like all that. Yeah, I think I'm gonna have to sign off, unfortunately. A lot of stuff is going on downstairs. I didn't want to make it this short. I will have to continue this. I'm not sure. Okay, you know what? I'm gonna continue. It's bugging me. I'm gonna talk to him. Okay, I want to keep. Okay, I might be able to keep going. I'm not sure. I am not sure at the moment. I am like trying to. Again, I'm sorry for like. I am sorry for stuttering and all that, because there is a lot of background noise. Okay, I think we should be good. But anyways, so a lot of this is a lot similar to 4. It is the same basic plot, where he has to there's submarines, he has to fight them, he has to go to these various countries in order to stop the main villain. There is a human villain alongside the AI villain, and both of them end with because the human villain wants to control the AIs, where it and take over and disable the internet, while a lot of the global systems, while the main cast, the heroes, are trying to kill the AIs while preserving the internet. And in the end, both of these are achieved, basically what they mentioned here with like the Podkova and the poison pill here in this movie are Fox Alive, in Metal Gear Solid 4. They're basically Fox Alive from Metal Gear Solid 4. Where is that? Yeah, like this part, basically the same thing. A computer virus designed to completely destroy GW, while conceptual opposite of the Fox Eye assassination virus. Yeah, Fox like it's basically Fox Alive. The poison pill at the end of the movie is essentially Fox Alive, and this one, it's it's the same kind of plot point. But like I guess like Kushima liked it enough because it was kind of glazing him. It was kind of glazing him. But how would I improve this movie? And again, these movies are very much normally these movies are very much like good on their own. I would be it would be beneath me, or like it would be I was not worthy enough to edit or suggest script edits or script doctoring to this movie. But I wish, like, genuinely, I could have been a script doctor for this movie because it is a very messy movie. It feels like, again, I enjoyed it, I loved it. It feels incomplete. It feels very incomplete. Anyway, okay, so I think we should be good to keep going. Honestly, fleshing out, I might do this at a separate time, like not exactly the because I have stuff going on on the other end, but more because again, I had a lot to say about this movie. I might like because of like suggesting my script edits, but there's someone talking downstairs. Okay, I think we should be good. Starting off, I guess, separating this into, I guess we'll start it now. Proposed rewrites and fixes to Final Reckoning. Um, edit, things to be directly edited. Cut from most of the cut out most of the flashbacks. It's a prior Mission Impossible films. Cut out most of the flashbacks. What else would I suggest? In the opening, the opening is again the weakest part, but the end is at least the end has a lot of problems. The middle section and the ending section are a lot stronger, but the first act, and like with the three-act structure, the first act is very much the weakest part, even there if there was a lot of stuff that I enjoyed. Cut out most of the flashbacks. Um, ins- Instead of being presidential briefing is directed straight played directly to the audience, and then you know what I think we should move the entity interrogation sequence to right after that one. When's ah is directly after the presidential briefing. So there's that. There's that I would incorporate. What else? Um, exposition. Direct exposition is interrogated directly out of in characters instead of jumbled flashbacks. what's Reckoning, and why is this the final one? Well, it's the final movie, and the Reckoning expedition is interrogated directly out of the main characters instead of jumbled, mm, instead of in jumbled bits. In jumbled bits, expedition is interrogated directly out of the main characters instead of in jumbled bits. Um, yeah, with a stronger presence throughout the movie. Cut un cut out unneeded sections. Cut out unneeded sections. Cut out unneeded sections of poorly written humor. Gabriel shown with a stronger main presence throughout the movie, and we actually see the opening fight scene. Title sequence is title sequence is played directly after the yeah. Well, okay, so the like I feel like the title sequence is in the right place, but everything before it is like in a lot of trouble. It's a cluttered mess, but straightening that out will lead directly into directly into the fight, into the opening. Um Overall, okay. Overall, Gabriel is shown with a stronger main presence throughout the movie, cut out unneeded sections of poorly written humor. So there's that. Oh, opening act, middle act, closing act. Honestly, a lot of the middle act, hmm, a lot of the middle act is fine for the most part. I guess this is me attempting to script doctor the movie. Both Gable and the entity. A stronger main presence throughout the movie ish, kind of middle act. I do have a lot to say about the closing act. So in the middle act, I think for the middle act, for the most part, it's fine. Um, I guess this is gonna sound a little bit racist, but there's like an Inuit Native American character in the movie, and she's shown as not being able to speak English, and I think, and it is played a little bit for humor because, she has to explain things to Grace, by using like hand signals and sign language, and she's like, for the most part, mute. I think for conciseness, again, I mean no harm or like insult towards the actress, because I think she did really good, but for the tone of in keeping with the tone of the movie, I think it would have been a lot better if the character simply spoke English but spoke minimally. Yeah, her name was Tapisa, like, but she would speak English instead of being mute for most of the movie. Tapisa would speak English, though rarely. Closing act. For the most part, the closing act is I guess in a way, I guess the Gabriel could be explained. I guess one of the core issues of the plot is that Gabriel has been cut off after after failing the last in the last movie's mission. I'm assuming the movie sucked ass. No, it was, again, a lot of it, like, looking at it like looking at it objectively, it's not a great movie, but at the same time, it was such a great theater experience. It's not like, ooh, the Minecraft movie where there's Zoomers screaming or whatever. It's like seeing it in theaters, and like seeing it in theaters as a spectacle was a great experience, and that I genuinely enjoyed this movie. But it's not a great movie. It's not like it's not the worst thing you'd ever see. I still recommend seeing it, but it has a lot of problems. If you're coming in now, Q flat flamingo, one of my major issue with like what I came up with at the end was like a 6 to 6.5 out of like 6 to 7 stars. I would recommend it. I still absolutely would recommend it. But that being said, this movie has a lot of problems that that hold it back from being the greatest movie in the franchise or whatever. It could have been. I feel like it could have been a lot better, but what we had was serviceable. At the very least, it was serviceable. I would still watch it. It's definitely better than Lilo and Stitch. But that is my recommendation for the movie. Like there are a lot of parts in here that I don't like. Like I said with Thunderbolts, this is a heavily flawed movie, but seeing it in theaters was something I especially enjoyed, and I would do it like. And this is a better movie than Thunderbolts in my opinion, at least scene by scene by scene. As a whole, it doesn't work, but like comprising like scene by scene by scene, this is a good movie. If you watch it in like cut up bits, it's a good movie. If you put it all together, it's not. But I would still recommend seeing it anyways because I enjoyed my time. I enjoyed my experience. And to me, that's the main hallmark if a movie was worth watching or not. Did it hold me? Was I compelled to continue watching it on screen? Was I compelled to continue watching it? And anything that does have that quality is qualified as a good movie. But again, this movie could have been a lot better. This movie could have been a lot better, and that's what I'm trying to like suss out here in my discussions and the stuff that I'm talking about. In closing act, air fuel. Anyway, the closing act, fight with Gabriel will take longer, and yeah, I would have liked a better fight at the end. And for both the poison pill and the parachute. So at the end, there's like a plane chase, and then like where both of them have to parachute out. Gabriel would be directly killed by Ethan, and instead of being struck by the plane. And like I think, yeah, again, if I have like again, I have a lot of problems with the movie, but if the main things that I could identify were here, um if the main things I would identify are here, like if these were my only edits to the closing sections of the movie, then but I do have more suggested edits to make it better. Middle act, overall, I think the movie should have been unneeded sections of poorly written humor, like for like this that should be that should be added to the movie, because again, this part This part is a little bit more contentious and is more me speaking as a fan instead of just like as a like, ooh, I wish this was cut out, like trying to like be an editor. This is more as a fan. This is more as an editor. In this one, um, movie could have been longer. Why could have committed scenes more scenes and could have been longer. While already long, it could have been longer. And things that should be added in the movie. This is a contentious part. This is a very contentious part of this of the things that I would like to add. And my way of explaining a lot of the plot holes in this, a lot of the opening act. Yeah, so that with the opening act, okay, what is that? With the opening act, things overall opening act, these this gets a little bit convoluted. I guess is the result of it being a convoluted movie and the ways that I would interact and express with this movie. A lot of these elements would be maybe I should cover this in another time, but I'm not sure. I'm not quite sure because again, I guess maybe like if Cruz or McQuarrie would find this list of like suggested edits, I think they would I think they would be mad at me, quite frankly. And again, I am editing the script and fixing the script of people that I look up to, of all people. Like normally I shouldn't have to do this, but I'm doing it anyway. But you know, I guess it's an act of passion about writing and about the franchise, but that's what it is. Overall, and audience was I guess audience was promised Gabriel's and Ethan's backstories and why Ethan prom audience was promised like a lot of the stuff in here, a lot like this is and a lot of the edits I was suggesting are like themselves trying to be unintrusive to elements of the movie. Opening act are part both Gabriel and Ethan are part of of the entity's torture sequence. Over Gabriel is still in play. Yeah. Gabriel is still in play for the entity instead of against it. I think because something I would like to explain. Gabriel is the overarching villain of the previous movie of Dead Reckoning. In Final Reckoning, he's been cut out by the entity because he failed in his last mission. So it's not really explained why he still has a following of people or where he's getting the or like where he's getting these resources from, like like specifically the nukes that he shows up twice with throughout the film, first in the opening and then finally at the end. I don't know why. I don't know why that's there, but that is a persistent problem in the movie. Like of it doesn't make sense for him to be cut out, especially when he's still an asset like that. And I guess that's their way of solving the plot holes, but it only provides more. Gabriel's still in play for the entity instead of against it. Both Gabriel and Ethan are part of the entity's true brainwashing sequence. To, and then So the yeah, both of them would flash back to their backstories during the opening act. Both of them would flash back to their backstories. Um, and why they met and why they know each other. Because I wish for him to be like a more compelling villain. In all honesty, that's the opening act. I think we're on a roll here. I think we're on a roll here. Both Gabriel and Ethan are part of the room, and then around here the opening titles roll, opening credits roll around here. The rest of the scene plays out as it should, and then opening act. Both of them flashback to their backstories and why they know each other. Um, Dagus, who's Greg Tarzan Davis, who's where is he? Trying to find him. Yeah, this guy. He's a good part of the movie. I liked him in the last one, but I think he could have done a little bit more. Dagus is shown. Both of them flashback to their backstories and why they know each other. Flashes back to Paris and like how they got flashes back to Paris, the character, and how they got Paris out of prison, and that in those sections. Where should I go from here exactly? Well, okay, middle act. Yeah. And I think a compelling section that would have made for like a better part of the movie would be if both of them, like if both Gabriel and Ethan were assumed to be acting on behalf of the entity. Extent to both of them to an extent are of the acting directly against it, because the entity is trying to manipulate both of them in order for this plan to work. Um, Navy SEAL on or yeah, is to be as a friend. Hostile Navy SEAL on board the USS Ohio is originally presented to be a friend because there's like this whole fight scene aboard the submarine where he has to take out one of the entity's cultists. Before revealing themselves as the entities and before revealing himself as the entity's insurance against Ethan rebelling against the entity. So that would be something I would add. There is more to the opening act that I would like criticize. Oh, that's a quick one. Is the Jasper Briggs when Jim connection really necessary, because this was like a CIA character from the last one who's supposed to be hunting Ethan down, and Jim Phelps is the villain from the first movie. In the movie, like Briggs is Phelps' son. It's not really necessary as to why this was needed, because I think the movie could have worked without it. Perhaps giving them another point of conflict would have fit better. Dagus in Paris. I feel like Dagus's recruitment scene could have been handled a little bit better. I think it could be because Ethan. Ethan manipulated his partner Dagus. Hostile Navy SEAL on board the USS Ohio is prison as a friend. For the middle act, I feel like there isn't too much to add. Actually, no, there is something I would add. In that, what is it? The would have a Russian defector. St. Matthew Island sequence would have a defector from the Russian naval infantry sequence. I'm sorry for not speaking as well. I'm trying to like. Normally I go silent when I try speaking. Um, St. Matthew Island sequence would instead it would have a defector from the Russian naval infantry. Actually, something else from the opening act is the entity is kind of described as this character from Mission Impossible 3. Where is that? The Rabbit's Foot as depicted in Mission Impossible 3. Yeah, you kind of need this movie to understand this one. Um, the, this mo- this movie with all of its sequences has because like in 3 he's supposed to capture a bioweapon, which is later revealed to be the entity. How a bioweapon became like got retconned into an AI is unknown. This is the one directed by J.J. Abrams, so you kind of like how take what you give, but this is a better movie than Final Reckoning at the end of the day. But I think something that would be interesting is if bioweapon canister as was originally a supercomputer. Supercomputer formed from a human brain. From human. Yeah, I think that would explain its appearance a little bit better. That it's from human brain cells. I wouldn't go as far to suggest who that human brain would be, although I guess that would provide a little bit more menace to the sort of to the entity that formed its that reformed itself as software, which I guess would explain about like why it's so capable of like understanding humans, or like reformed itself as software by like yeah, it used to be a brain in a jar, but now it's a brain on the net. It's a full-on ghost in the machine that I think would be a compelling part of the story. I guess a little bit more believable than this bioweapon container containing a computer chip. Is the Jasper Briggs Jim Phelps connection really necessary? St. Matthew Island sequence have a direct factor from the Russian naval infantry because the Russian special forces, the Russian naval infantry, the Russian Marines come to the where is that? Come to St. Matthew Island in order to like get to retrieve the Pokova, and actually, not Dagus, but Briggs and Kittredge are entities controls themselves. A defector from the Russian naval infantry. If I have a defector from the Russian naval infantry, would be manipulated by the to join IMF. I think that would be like a really good like having one of the soldiers, even from an enemy nation, defect to the IMF team after being manipulated by the entity to like join its cult instead of i- instead of like as opposed to the US Navy crewman who was like fully subsumed by the entity and manipulated to do its bidding. That would be like showing the contrast between two characters would be interesting. Originally, my plan with like script doctoring this would be having Dagus be the mole inside, or having Dagus be the mole inside, who would later defect fully to the IMF team. But I don't think that would work as well. Um, Active players and hunting for the entities controls themselves. Hunting for the entities controls themselves. Middle act and then ending act. I think an ending act, because there's a nuke scene at the ending act. I think the threat of the nuke in the mine. Nuke in the data vault is. Downloads of Pisa and Company are. Direct. That and then I think there is more that I would add to this. Um, Nuke in the data vault is entirely cut out. Before defeat rebellion directly and ending fully. Ending fight between Ethan. Okay. I know. I'm sorry about like the like I can't really type and write at the same like I can't really type and talk at the same time and provide commentary, but the ending fight between Ethan and Gabriel resolved it would end their rivalry with Gabriel being killed with the gun he used to kill. I guess my suggestion for why they know each other, um and Marie, his prior wife. Ethan and Marie, his prior wife. Because it's previously established that Ethan was in the U.S. Army. I think that like so. I think that would tie together a lot of the plot threads. I think this would tie together a lot of the plot threads that I suggested. Um, so like Ethan being this like criminal who was given a choice either to join the IMF or spend his life in prison, as he said before. Having him be established as like some kind of high level criminal before joining the IMF and becoming a spy, because it's like we have what little we have of his backstory is that his parents owned a farm, his father died of cancer, um, he was in the U.S. Army before joining the IMF or the CIA, and I think that choice would have been something that he wasn't willing to make. That kind of story. He wasn't willing to make that choice, to make that a part of it, to make that a part of the story, but he did it anyway. Um, These are high level criminals after, and because both Grace in this movie is shown as like both Grace in this movie and the prior movie is a thief, and Ethan had previously been shown to have like relationships with thieves in Mission Impossible 2, which is the overlooked one by John Woo for a variety of reasons. Opening act. I think this would intercepted, score and killed Marie to frame Ethan. Both of them do an extend under the orders of the entity instead of acting directly against it. I think this is most of the plot threads would be resolved by the stuff that I suggested. Okay. Both in play for the entity instead of against it. There is more that I could add to this. I think this could be I think this could be handled. Is simply to shown you. Gabriel is shown evacuating the data vault to deny the IMF their prize. This doesn't show why he wouldn't destroy the poison pill instead of keeping it for himself. It does introduce a new hole why he would keep the poison pill instead of keeping it for himself. I think they're like maybe that element of control where both of them are secretly trying to play against the entity while working for it. Working for the Podkova, is shown evacuating the data vault in order to deny the IMF their poison pill. Gabriel is shown fleeing the data vault in order to deny their. So that would solve that plot thread, I think. Other ones include how exactly would Ethan and Gabriel be manipulated into what is it? Into doing all this. I think I guess my worst suggestion would be having different biplanes be used. Different biplanes would be used at the ending sequence. Ending fight between Ethan and Gabriel, and their kill with the gun he used to kill Ethan's wife Marie, I think, and that would solve that. That would tie the story together. Hitting that Ethan manipulated as part of. Disavowed. Hostile Navy SEAL on board the USS Ohio. There's that. Defector from the Russian Naval Infantry. I think because that would be introducing a new kind of character, but I wanted to establish that as a sort of new kind of character that would separate itself. Like, yeah, he was manipulated by the entity, but it would falter. He would falter and regain his own humanity later on. He would act independently, like that sort of acting independently to save the world. So yeah, I think this movie would, like, as a result of my changes, the movie would in fact be longer. But going off of what we have here, I think this would close like at least most of the plot threads. I'm sorry that this stream wasn't as good as I tried to make it to be. I guess maybe it's evocative of the movie. I was originally gonna spurg out about it, and I guess that's how a lot of these film freakouts go. I start spurging out about it, I have something to say, and then I run out of things to say and sort of start putting things together, trying to organize my thoughts, because a lot of my thoughts are still unorganized. But overall, I guess my ending take on this movie, this could have been a lot better. This could have been a whole lot better. But at the same time, at the end of this story, is that I liked what we got. For what it's worth, I would go to the theater to see this again. That is something that is a rare thing that I would often not say. If I would be willing to see a movie again, despite its flaws, it is still a good movie. Um, and that's all really. I think that's what it is. Um, I think that's what it is. I think I do have to sign off a bit now. Hold on. I might have to mute. Okay, I think I should be good to sign off. I think I should sign off directly here before anything I risk anything else. But thank you everyone who came. Thank you everyone who came. Thank you Dantiok fanboy. Thank you Random Perv, and thank you Q Flat Flamingo. I wish I could have delivered a little bit better with this because again I had a lot more to say. I thought I had a lot more to say. I might even like expand upon how I would do this and like in at a later time. But thank you everyone who came. I think I'll do a raid. I have enough people to do a raid with. Um, there we go. Let's see who's on. Let's see who's on. We have Leah, we have Trop, we have Salty. Um, we have Risuri. We had Is there anyone else? Oh, she push. There's Mollington, but he's not live. Um, Carol Wilderwood, not that's Elden Ring. Where would you guys like to go? There's AKB48 Karaoke by Nyaru. Um, that's also. I think I'll go into Salties. I'll raid into Salty. But thank you everyone who came. Thank you everyone for watching. Otsu love, and I will see you guys next time. I do have some plans for next week. Stuff that I was like recovering from mentally that I was gonna do prior, but I think I'll bring myself up to speed and get ready to do those. Get ready to do those next week. Thank you everyone for coming. Otsu love, and I'll see you guys next time. Manual raid and stream.